one family. We're working together. While we're doing this, if you haven't had an opportunity, you can go to reclaimingthevillage.org. And not only will you have an opportunity to donate to our cause, let me rephrase that, donate to our cause, you'll have an opportunity to see some of the things that we're doing in the community and what we're doing collectively in the community. We say this is a one world family. Regardless of what people do to you, you are still responsible for what you do for you. So our goal is to come up with tangible solutions and products and services of our own that can help, improve the lives of our people and other people in general. We're not exclusive. We say we are the conscious corner where the conscious community hangs out, but everybody's invited. We mean that. We're only speaking to a mindset, a level of awareness. So thank you all for joining us. We really appreciate that. Anybody else that may be sitting down, listening, watching, or hearing what we're saying, whether you're checking us out on Periscope or whether you're checking us out perhaps on YouTube Live, or I don't know what other apparatus is out there, but if you're seeing us, Hotep, what's happening, assalamu alaikum, and whatever the other greetings may be. But beyond that, we're going to talk a little about Bambaataa today. I got a few notes and things I'm looking for that I kind of lost, but, we're going to do this thing like a family. This is like a classroom where we're going to learn from each other. And a lot of the things we're going to say today, let's make sure we're clear about this, is alleged. There's been no charges that's been brought up on Afrika Bambaataa. That is going to be the discussion on which we're going to start to facilitate today. But there has not been any charges, so everything that we say is alleged. And if we have strong feelings about that, those feelings, have to still be directed to one direction, still in the idea of what has happened. Now, I understand a lot of people should be upset about this situation if that in fact did happen. If he was just a homosexual and having homosexual acts with other men, that's his choice. But if he was a homosexual who was imposing himself molestation and raping other young people and taking advantage of them, regardless of how he was doing it, if he was doing it, guess what? That's rape. And if the statute of limitations have not been gone past, then we need to address that. And the reason why this was so important to me, and I had my board set up to go over some things, it's going to be a two-part. We're not going to play with this. I had been talking about issues in hip-hop a long time ago, but everybody was trying to protect it so damn much until we allowed situations like this to happen, or to ignore it. Now, what culpability do other people have who knew it was happening? Are you an accessory to it? So if we sit back and talk about, yeah, man, I know that nigga was doing it all the time. If you knew that somebody's child was being raped and you didn't say nothing, you need to be in the same fucking cell with him. That's just my opinion.
I agree with that, man.
And what we're talking about right now, for you all to understand this, whether you call this show whatever you think this is, we're talking about our children. I'm going to explain something to you. For 30 years, this is what we have been imposed in doing. For 30 years. I ain't jumped and flip-flopped and tried to be this and we tried to be this. We have been tunnel vision on addressing the issues that affect our children. So much that we have a national agenda for black children and children in general. So now we're stepping into a lane where I'm saying, man, we ain't talking about hip-hop now. We talking about rape. We talking about molestation. And unfortunately, we know that if this was imposed upon somebody, it probably was imposed upon the brother. But we got to take it a step at a time. But with that, you all, we're talking about Afrika Bambaataa, the alleged crimes or alleged allegations of what he did sexually to young men. What he did when he was a grown man or as a grown man that was age appropriate, that's on him. I'm not even in that discussion. But with that, let's jump on. Good morning. Didn't mean to jump on with that intention, but we let the spirit lead sometimes.
Yes, indeed. Well, first of all, I think for those who do not know who Afrika Bambaataa is,
good point.
This is one of the pioneers of hip hop. In fact, some give him credit of even being the one who called hip hop. So definitely a founding father. One of the leaders of the Zulu Nation, which to my understanding was very big and influential organization in New York City.
And eventually worldwide.
And effectively, yes, definitely, globally. So his, and obviously we know that hip hop as an art form or way of life or culture, we know that spans the entire globe. So, in Planet Rock, I think that's what he was initially notorious for. Planet Rock, and then the Soul Sonic Force.
It's a big pow wow.
Yeah. So this man, by all accounts, has been a staple and this organization has been a staple and pillar in the community. And it's really at this point in time, allegations, whether they be true or not, to some extent, it's giving hip hop a black eye. So I agree with Amon in regard to, if people did indeed know that the molestation, the pederasty, which is when an adult male preys on young males, specifically, differing from pedophilia, as I understand the definition to be. And I want to commend a few brothers. My man, I believe his name is Star from Hot 97.
Shot 97.
Shot 97.
Yeah.
And Lord Jamar, Professor Griff, and the brothers, the Hebrew Israelite brothers. The brother had a very name that I failed to be able to pronounce at this time, but these brothers gave some great commentary on the whole issue. These are all New York brothers. Red Pill, Red Pill, Blue Pill, Red Dot. Brothers. I watch the brothers. No disrespect, brothers, to any of you. I definitely enjoy your commentary, and you guys are 100% on point for most of the issues that you address. So I just wanted to shout out to you guys and commend you for your work that you're doing in the community. And I think we need to do a lot more of that. We need to do a lot more of plugging our brothers who are doing the work in the communities and have boots on the ground. So, there were rumors that have been circulating for decades.
Which I had never, let me clarify that, I had never heard those. So I had never ever heard that he was possibly, gay, or whether he was molested, ever in my whole life. Until this story broke, I had never heard that before. So I'm one of those who didn't.
Well, and of course, we're a long way from the action. If it was something that was local, then perhaps we would have heard it. But, these guys... Or if I traveled in circle and did some work with him, maybe I would have recognized some things. These guys in the community, it's like, the rumors have been circulating. And actually, Griff said the first time somebody brought it to him a few years ago, he basically blasted the person, and, then when it came back again, when it comes back again, then it's going to have a little bit more gravity. And, not to incriminate the brother, however, the first person to speak publicly, a gentleman by the name of Ronald Savage, to my understanding, he was one of the, he's basically an intern within the organization, within some of the circles that Bambaataa frequented. I believe it was Lord Jamar who said that, when he heard that Africa denied knowing this young man, he was like, well, look, man, I know for a fact that is not true because we've been in the same room together.
I think his reply was that, well, I know I heard this from a man on Shot 97, was that you may know him as B Stinger, if we're talking about the same guy.
Yes.
So maybe knew him as a street name. And it's not uncommon for you to know someone's street name and not know the dude's name. I've gone a long time, known some people 25 years, and then they tell me their whole name, and I just go to trip. Really? Is that your name, dude?
But the likelihood being, you being, first of all, let's just say this, okay? Because, and I'm going to draw some parallels. We have Afrika Bambaataa and the Zulu Nation, and we have AmonRashidi and the GriotNation. So what is the likelihood of one of our youth who frequent our circles, one of the youth that we mentor, going on to do something big? To my understanding, this young man,
B Stinger, the guy.
Yeah, B Stinger. He went on to do something in politics. So it's kind of like,
I understand that he's just a precinct chair, and if you're a Bambaataa, let's be real about this. I'm not opening no lanes because I'm not on either I'm on the side of the children and what's right. And I'm not deep into hip hop and the name. And sure, I know Lasana Hotep, who he teaches, which is, one of my young brothers, and still got great respect for Brother Lasana because he deal with, and I'm sure he's probably addressing it. And what's up, brother? I hope you'll call in. But I just want to make sure that we understand as we deal with this, that this can be a scourge in our community. We don't want the nations and the programs that we create to become like, and I keep saying this because as an example, is what we see in the Catholic Church sometimes, where something happens and because of the quote unquote brotherhood and we're going to look after each other, instead of you going to court or you being brought to justice, you just put in another parish. And what about the damage has been done of molestation? What about the possibility of them transferring this on and these people that you impose upon raping others? See, when someone accepts being molested over a period of time, that quiet acceptance now becomes their reality. And they take that on to something else. This affects children. This affects families. And I want to say this, I'm an example. And not to go into my details, but I end up keeping one of my grandchildren because of the idea that I thought. So life was on hold until we made sure that things were in order for her. Now, things are great now and moving forward. But this is a serious issue. And I want to make sure, don't y'all dare get to playing around whether hip hop this. Okay, I understand that part. Making sure we got all the facts straight. But to make sure as we go forward, the situations like R. Kelly, we can go on. This is about our community. Afrika Bambaataa ain't from, somebody else's camp. It's ours. And I just want to put that in context. So, yeah, it could have been. There could be some cats I don't know after 30 years. There's some kids come up, I don't remember their name. I'm getting back to the point where I was like, I called him something during that time and I didn't know. It all depends on my relationship. But if he worked as close with Bambaataa as he say he did, he would remember him. That's like Omar working with me.
Yeah, not only that, there is a face attached. Okay. There's a face attached to the allegation.
If he was molesting or raping or having sex with somebody, you're gonna probably remember that.
Yeah, right? And it's a travesty. And
right.
Beyond Afrika Bambaataa in his situation, I think this just sheds light on what's happening in our communities on a day-to-day basis. I mean, this is what's happening even inside our own families on a day-to-day basis. You working in social services.
Well, let's talk about that. 1 in 4. 1 in 4 boy or girl. 1 in 4 girls by the time they're 12 is going to be molested, raped, or someone will have attempted that. And if they live in a house where the guy is eyeing them down, the mama's boyfriend is eyeing them down all the time, and constantly, he accidentally go into the shower, she comes out the shower. He may not ever touch her, but to me, that's a form of molestation. See, I think even that within itself is a travesty and a crime. So we got to understand that those have effects on people. Here's the other piece that we got to look at, the subculture of prison. Do you really believe that as many people that we have been incarcerated and you don't create another issue regarding that? See, what you do is you create a subculture. The subculture of no snitching comes from prison because everyone lives in their own world. And for you to violate that, even whether it be true or false, creates a problem for you. But also, too, let's go back to trick banging. Trick banging is when a group of cats that's in a clique go out and get, a chick who's going to be down with the clique and everybody going to have sex with her. I'm going to tell you, but, by the time you get to a certain amount of guys, it's going to be too much pain, she's going to stop. Well, they don't. That's rape. And after they do it, nobody wears a condom. So by the time they finish having sex, when she gets pregnant, it's a clique baby. Nobody really knows who baby it is. See, all these things started to happen based off what was going on and the transference of ideas through prison. Let's go to the other. Thug conquest. Thug conquest, if my set get with your set and we have a big beef down in prison, if I beat you down, and you know what's going to happen? The leader going to get raped by the leaders of the other group. I've been teaching this since I've been going around the country for years. And then you start seeing these books about on the down low and what these guys were doing. And these thugs who, I sit down in circles with brothers in prisons. That's right, in New York. Remember, I was there for 4.5 years. Were we effective? We won the Covenant Essence Award. We worked in the Bronx. We worked in Brooklyn. Worked in Jersey. We worked in Montclair. We worked in, I'm trying to think of all the different places. Trenton. So, yeah, we got a chance to see it. But I sat in circles with dudes who was in cliques. And would sit down and they get to talking and do like, man, you ain't gonna be in my clique, nigga. You suck dick. You ain't gonna be in my clique. You be over there with them punks. You like, nigga, I may let a nigga suck my dick and I may fuck a nigga, but I ain't no punk. Do you see the confusion that's starting to happen in here? Now you throw on top of that the absence of a man to give you guidance and direction and purpose of what manhood is. Now what am I doing right now? I'm setting a preference for how Bambaataa can be in our community and these things can happen. If you ain't gonna snitch, what does that mean? I ain't gonna tell nobody. That's an artificial code that's fucking up our neighborhood.
Artificial code, man.
That is an art that no snitches. Hey, nigga, we know we ain't gonna snitch. At the expense of your babies and your children and your boys and girls being raped. And then one of y'all had the nerve to challenge me because we said we had a code of conduct. Everybody needs a code. If you have a code, then that determines the character of the men. Don't notice some men, why couldn't one of the codes be, we don't molest, touch, or impose ourselves upon children? That should be every code of conduct for anybody in some form of nation. So now y'all understand why we talking about putting these things in perspective in reference to codes of conduct, getting a better understanding, and then communicate. That's where networking works. Because if someone else from another group recognizes something that's going on in the nation, he can call one of the leaders or one of the lieutenants and say, look, dog, I saw something that made me uncomfortable. But when you live in your own world and you're the king of your own castle, then you make the rules, and it's not until it leaks out. And I don't know if that's totally the situation, but I'm creating a scenario that understands this is where you can draw from, and these are where some of these issues come from. So we can keep on going, but that subculture has not stopped. The prison to school pipeline is still going on. Should we be afraid of every kid now who wants to get involved in the hip-hop program? Is this going to tarnish that? Are people going to look and say, well, you guys don't do well enough in your community, you're not protecting those kids, so the state is going to come in, you're not going to have certain kind of programs?
Well,
but anyway.
There's definitely going to be fallout, and one of the things that people are talking about is if this man is guilty of these crimes and he has been doing it for this long, then he's not the only one. I would say that I would dare venture say that someone else higher up in that organization, or perhaps a band in that organization, and I don't want to throw salt on it, but I mean, as much as I love my brother here,
go ahead.
If I found out that my brother was molesting children, then my brother is sick and he needs help.
That's right.
And I have to confront that. As a man, I have to confront that. I have to confront what I heard through the grapevine. Hey man, I really heard something that disturbed me. Now we're gonna have a man-to-man, we're gonna have a heart-to-heart talk. And we're gonna talk about getting my brother some help, and we're gonna talk about restitution, and we're gonna talk about punishment. I mean, it is what it is.
Well, let's add one thing too that we didn't mention. If your child is coming home, he's 8 years old, and you know your temperament, and you kind of know your child's cycle of activities, all right, and you know the manner in which that child details those cycle of activities. If he starts to come home, particularly if he's in new programs and got new friends, you need to be monitoring behavior. When he used to come home and hug and mom, what's going on? Now he goes straight to his room. When he used to want to sit down and eat with her or run to your favorite place, now he don't want to go anymore. Now all of a sudden, he starts to urinate in the bed at night. What most people don't, that's a defense mechanism. That's the body's natural desire to fight off harm. So you urinate or you'll defecate in the bed. As a result, you start to punish him, not knowing that this is a symptom of really something else, far more sinister, and not even directed with him rebellion. But he wants to tell you, but this situation that's happening to him is so foreign, he don't know how to explain to mama what this is. So that goes into how we have to start communicating more in our programs and almost have if you would, a one-stop spot. So when we do hear something like that in our programs, if you just happen to hear it, we transfer the information to someone else to say, let's follow up on that. So I'm just putting precursors out so in the future this doesn't continue to happen, or if you in a situation where you see it, at least you might recognize some of the symptoms. And we'll get a little bit deep into that a little bit later on. So we have to teach each other and learn as we go away, as we deal with this situation.
I'm listening to what you're saying, and you're saying we, and I do emphasize we, because if you look at what's put in place by the state, then a lot of times these agencies, CPS, these people come in and wreck homes where there is no danger, no real danger. It's like so that's a really slippery slope. Yeah. While they may save a few lives, they wreck a lot of homes, following up on allegations. Yeah, you want to do a follow-up, man, but when the evidence is not there, it's just not there.
Now, let's look at that. Now, that's heavy stuff. Now, let's really put it in perspective, because we've had this dialogue before. Because the Bambaataa situation is we dealing with his personal situation, but it's a microcosm of many things that's happening. How many of you all have ever been threatened and that was a lie? That's serious now. That's so serious to me that I think it should be a crime on the person who accuses you if they're found out that they lied. Because that's a serious imposition on a person to say that you molest. Let me tell you something. Molesting a child or rape is so bad that when you come to prison, at least the inmate's going to want to rape you. The inmate's going to want to kill you. You got to be put in protective custody. They're looked at as the lowest as the low. So if that's being the case, y'all, we got to take all these pieces under consideration. I just want to throw that in there going forward.
No, that's real talk, man. For all of the callers that are on the line, if you wish to speak, if you have a question or a comment, press *6. That will send you into our caller queue. Once you're in the queue, you will hear prompts, and then we will recognize you, and you can make your statement or ask your question. This is Brother to Brother with AmonRashidi. We're talking about Afrika Bambaataa, and we're talking about molestation, pedophilia, pederasty, and how it's rampant in our communities. And this did not start with these allegations.
No. It was going on before Bambaataa. We are aware of that. Yeah. We're not being naive, and we ain't trying to make him the face of molestation.
No, we're not. We're not doing that at all. Yeah. One thing that I have grief with, however, and maybe you can expound on this. You're a subject matter expert in these fields, so a lot of times we see a lot of homosexuality. That is something that is also it's become popularized exponentially. Lesbianism, and I remember when I was coming through school, you might have one or two lesbians in high school, depending on where you are. Now it's almost like the entire basketball team, or just a huge segment of our young adult population. I'm saying starting very early are choosing lifestyles of lesbianism or homosexuality, and being that we have such 80% of our homes are single parent homes, then a mother's first instinct is to move to protect her child, physically, emotionally, mentally, in any way that she can. And a lot of these homosexuals and lesbians are byproducts of single parent homes. And when someone steps out to not necessarily condemn the act, but at least begin to, or condemn the lifestyle, but just begin to dialogue about it, and maybe point out certain things, or just debate. Some people say that this is how people were born, and other people there are schools of thought, and then there are other schools of thought that say, well, no, and then you have the religious aspect, and they come in and say, well, you condemn to hell. But what I'm getting at is that is there a link between the pedophilia, the homosexuality, and if there is a link, then rather than moving to defend perhaps some of the predators, what is happening to the victims?
Well, let's just go ahead and let's just address the issue. I think posing the question is, does somebody homosexual, you more prone to rape a boy? No, there's no link that it's because he's a homosexual.
Excuse me, let me cut you off. I'm sorry.
Okay.
We got 3 callers, and callers, we're coming right to you. We see you all in queue.
And it's good to have you kind of lined up, because many times we'll get to talking and kind of waiting, and it's good that we got you lined up. But let's deal with this.
We got 3 of y'all in the queue. We're coming right after Amon finishes his statement. I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah. No, there's not a link to homosexuals being more prone to rape a rape a boy because there's a little boy in the house. But there are links of young boys who perhaps were raped as little boys, who later on, who had that imposed upon them, then becomes acceptable behavior, and it becomes a lifestyle, and they become homosexual. So there are a lot of links. There's a lot of links directly related. There's also a link between young ladies who may be raped as young ladies by boyfriends or whoever, particularly if it's repeatedly, and they get to the point where they demonize and they really hate men, and eventually that can lead to her becoming a lesbian. Now, have there been enough studies that I've shown that gives, empirical data? I don't know of that. But I know as a dean of school, I've sat down specifically with my lesbian students, and we've addressed and talked about this. And we talked about several issues, and a great deal of it. I know that over half of my students who say that they're a lesbian or gay have that in their history. What we say 0 to 8, which is internalization. That means from the time you're born, from infancy to 8 years of age, it creates cognitive thoughts, ideas, concept, man, woman, child, love. What is acceptable is mostly built during 0 to 8. I'm saying infancy. So if that is imposed upon a child during a period of time, then once they go from infancy to experimentation, what was imposed on them 0 to 8 at 9 to 13, which we call experimentation, guess what they're going to do? They're going to try that. And then if that continues to work and someone accepts that, then by the time they get into socialization, which is 14 to 19, that's reality. So as we begin to look at this from a social and psychological standpoint, a lot of this is imposed and becomes acceptable behavior. But we ain't had that dialogue. Now when we have that dialogue, people will start to have conflict. But if we look at it from the perspective, if there are links, the only link that I see, that I've identified with my personal experiences, and not just through data, is that over half of the children I worked with as a dean of schools, if they were homosexual or lesbian, at one time was raped or molested as a child. So I want to make sure I laid that out there. Yes, so sir. I'm not defending or protecting any particular group other than children, period.
That's very heavy.
And I just want to make sure y'all understand that. So don't get sidelined by none of this.
Okay.
Let's deal with that behavior.
And that's very heavy.
Whether you gay, lesbian, heterosexual or not.
And I believe that we should begin to get that empirical data and also focus on, out of those who have been victimized, what happened to the perpetrator of the crime. Did they fall into this lifestyle as a result of the abuse that you just spoke of, and then that person who brought them into, who abused them, who raped them, who molested them.
And what he's describing is a cycle. So chances are, if this was true, if the allegations against Bambaataa is true, if you probably go into his history, you're going to find out probably that it happened to him. And probably the perpetrator on him may have happened to him as well. So, some deviant hate, but most people aren't born in this manner. Most people, this is imposed upon them. Okay, but with that, I just want to keep on.
Okay, we got
let's get some callers in, get some response.
We got a caller from 716-602, and then I saw Dr. Tisa. Dr. Tisa, please get back in the caller queue. I'm sorry.
Sure, I want to hear your opinion on this.
Okay, 716. Peace.
Good, great. I want to make sure everybody can.
Yeah, I don't know much about Afrika Bambaataa and whatever the things are, but I think that something that AmonRashidi said is really key. That it's not just about homosexuality; it's also dealing with heterosexuality and dealing with premature sexualization and how children are sexualized at too early an age by ways
Good point.
by ways of other things. Their children from early
I think he may get
activities, which are adult activities. And it's not just about homo, it's about hetero too.
Right.
Aunts and uncles and prey upon the little ones because they see them one way or the other. And then the little ones get turned on to things that they shouldn't be turned on to. And then they turn other little ones into it. It's something to do with rights and passages and how we really have, if we have a community or not. If we're able to police our own community or not, or raise our own families or not. And the way it's going now, the media has such a profound impact on us. And, it's not just about homosexuality, it's just about sexuality, period. Are we allowing our children to grow up to be 18 or 19 or 21 before they allow themselves in such activities? That's my question.
I think, first of all, you made a good point. That's where really having a rites of passage comes in. That, when you said that, that really struck home. And you're right. PG was just asking something specifically in reference to homosexuality, but by no means that we're saying that is a result of that. It is as rampant in any form. It's just sexuality in general. And premature exposure to too much sex, i.e. images, i.e. music, i.e. mama, daddy exposure, boyfriend, girlfriend, constantly coming back into the house, child doing 0 to 8, experiencing seeing family members have sex without an explanation after they walk in the room or in shock. These are things that we have to sit down with and address. And I agree, we have to look at it from a standpoint of sexuality. Now, I'm a certified abstinence facilitator. And we generally start at the 5th grade and giving young children an example of who they are, about their bodies, about puberty, and trying to get them sustained from sex until they're mature enough to handle what comes along with that. People have to realize that sex is so spiritual. An orgasm is more spiritual than it is physical, and most people don't understand that. And then being able to impose these kind of things on children at such a young age. And I agree. I think it's something we should look at from a community perspective and come up with some type of solution. But thank you for your observations, brother. I don't know who that was, but they're very good points.
We got another caller in the queue. That's Brother Unseen. Brother Unseen, are you with us?
Yes, sir, brother. Peace, brother.
What's happening, man?
Peace.
Hey,
That was Brother Kamal.
Brother Kamal.
From Buffalo. Thank you for your call.
Yeah, well, thank you, Brother Kamal. He made a good point. Go ahead, Unseen. What's happening, man?
Man, my head is blowing up, man. My heart is racing. I did a little research on the Afrika Bambaataa situation. And, what we're dealing with, seriously, is institutional homosexuality. Same with the Catholic Church. Same, what the brother did was, when the original, he was a black spade, and all these brothers, were breaking off and starting groups to help the community. He was a homosexual. So brothers disassociated themselves with him. He hit on them, things happened. So he broke off, went to Africa. Now listen to this. Went to Africa, looked around, did his thing, and then came back and started the Zulu Nation. So what he did was a conversion of culture, just like homosexuality was when it invaded, our original culture. He converted it. And it's institutionalized from the sense that he set up a so-called nation for his moral exploits, if you will, or immoral exploits. And as time went on, and people that he hit on or what have you, they moved on, did different things. Nobody said nothing, but they brought it like us, like all brothers do. They brought it amongst the council, amongst themselves. The settlers didn't have the brothers, step down, things of that nature. But it never happened. And the brothers that were around him were eating off of him. His roommate, his bodyguards, and all this stuff, even though his bodyguard, Brother Sharif, is a devout Muslim, came out and called him a pedophile, brought him up on charges and everything, but nothing happened. So the whole concept that I'm saying is, this is the same as your child going into school and getting victimized by a teacher. This is the same as your child going into the church and getting victimized by the choir director or whatever the case. This is a perversion of culture. And to me, the Zulu name in our culture has to be cleared up. We need the Quakers of the world and all the people that are dedicated to making sure that we're looked at properly to clear this up and separate ourselves from this. Because this is exactly what has happened, man. Hold on for a minute.
Wow.
I'm sorry. I'm a little indisposed, but I just wanted to tell y'all that, man. This is something that, not unlike every other predatory situation that took place with us and our children, this is what the brother did. And don't get it twisted. He is sick. It does need to be dealt with from a wellness, from a medical, from a psychological, all those different things. But we have to go back to these institutions, man. And this is the reason why homosexuality is what it is because it's been institutionalized from the top down, from the legislators, from the people, from the mayors, from the people that make decisions. This is where it's coming from. It's not coming from the streets and competing with our children and all that BS. That's not where it's coming from. It's coming from people who want this society, but like when the Roman Catholic government, the Roman government folded into the Catholic Church, this became a normal deal in culture. When the Greek actually started with the Greek, and because we're under that culture, it's going to be legislated, it's going to be passed, and it's going to be a part of our institutions, just like racism. So whatever education you want to do with your child at home, before you send them, it's fine, but the whole concept is that you're sending them into a social environment where it's socially acceptable. There are massive movements of homeschooling among African Americans, among Africans who have decided that the school system is failed. If we don't remove our children from these institutions and take hold of our children, we're going to say, I guarantee you, the fallout from this is huge chaos. One, everybody that knew this, man, that knew this brother, and knew what he was doing, at this point, if you look at what's going on, you go on YouTube right now, this shit is unfolding, excuse my language, it is unfolding to epidemic proportions. Hundreds of people, man. Hundreds. And Truth has a rhythm to it. I don't want to hear about this bullshit about allegedly and all that. Every black man knows all you have to do is this is where you want it, not the college skill, the beacon. This is where you want it, brother, to go and say, man, stop the bullshit, let's deal face to face and get this thing out in the open and deal with it. You don't get no help. We done with you. Now the Africa chapter of the Zulu Nation and the overseas chapters have come out and said, look, man, we separating ourselves from that, and let's start new. But other brothers saying, you need to blow it up because it ain't a chance. Because this brother was going in helping people, buying them tennis shoes, putting them in school, doing all kind of stuff. But at the same time, you're all 50-year-old OG brothers, 51, older than me, saying that he was in the bathroom urinating, and that brother come in urinating next to him and start jacking off. Now, come on, man. You see what I'm saying? There's no way you can redeem the Zulu name in America unless you blow that shit up and have Quaid and everybody else go back and reestablish it for what it really is. But we need to quit playing with the idea of going through all these, this brother is a predator, and the nation that we're living in is predatory when it comes to homosexuality. If we don't do nothing about it, we might as well forget about it.
Hey, y'all. Well, that was a good point, and that's some good history. And I want people to understand this impacts our community once again. I don't want y'all to get caught up and think it's just him. This is a microcosm of things that have been going on in our community. And we've raised holy hell over the last 25 years about the thug life sexual conquest that go on and the sexual conquest that go on in penitentiaries, and when they come out, it still is imposed. But it's like we're talking about two issues, and one of the issues is I'm not saying that just because you're homosexual, you're more prone to rape boys. I'm saying that we're dealing with a serious issue, period, of sexuality. So Warren Unseen is saying that the idea of homosexuality and lesbian is being imposed and many times legislated. And then on the other hand, we're talking about an issue of pedophilia and whether the person actually did it. I have to say alleged because we won't have this platform. You get sued if it turns out some of it wasn't true. You see what I'm saying? So I'm protecting our interests to be able to hold this platform at the same time. The other issue is I'm tired of every time something that happens in our community, our whole community is indicted based on it. If something happens to a car dealership for an Anglo company, you don't go after all the car dealerships. So let me explain. So Zulu Nation is fine. This one allegation is not going to destroy the great legacy of Zulu. We don't have to have nobody do anything extra, but we should discuss it from a perspective since it's being addressed, because this is a teachable moment. Now that everybody is coming to hear about it, now addressing the true history of the Zulu Nation and see if that's consistent with what this brother brought forth. And now that dismisses it without us having to make any allegations, you can see it for yourself. And last but not least, anybody else who said this and somebody else that was online was talking about that's just like them niggers, or, just a whole bunch of negative stuff. Well, I want you to understand pedophilia was imposed upon us even back in 1555. Now, these men that were walking around with makeup on and perfume on and powdered wigs and boots with buckles on them, they was having sex with these boys. Now, for you Masons, when George Washington said that he chopped down a cherry tree and couldn't tell a lie, you know what a cherry tree is. Stop playing. So, we have to begin to address these issues. Thomas Jefferson, you can't ask the question. At 14 years old, he impregnated a woman. She was 14. How is that a love affair? That's called rape. So are you going to rescind the things that he did? Are you going to rescind the things that George did? Did Lincoln own a few himself? Oh, man, this has opened up a real deep hole. So these things to think about, you all. And I think the history in which Unseen said is, even back to Malcolm, it's best to reward all research, to go back and let the history within itself reveal our habits, our norms. What was the practical approaches and what practices did we have there? But at heart, we're dealing with the primary issue is this man a pedophile or not? And if he is, at what level of restitution and justice can we be brought forth? Because if it's continuing to happen and we know about it, it needs to be stopped. And I'm going to stop right there, PG. I don't know if we need to take a break, bring somebody else in.
Well,
Go We be hitting it hard, and we need to sometime every now and then break a song and then let y'all think about it, because we be hitting with a lot of stuff. You don't have time to even think about it and digest it.
Yeah.
And sometimes after break, you can come back, and thank y'all for sitting in, because there's a lot of information many times over a short period of time.
Man, Brother Unseen just dropped a lot. He just dropped a serious a serious load of information. We know that brother to be thorough in his research, and he's not just going to come out and begin to hurl a lot of assertions and allegations. Although, you know, you can say some of that was his opinion, I think there was a lot of validity in the strength, and his opinion has some weight. You know, beyond Brother Afrika, you know, and you talk about codes.
Yeah.
Moving forward, you know, what type of protocol will we establish? Do we need to establish for, you know, the victims? You know, we're gonna have to deal with them. You know, there obviously, you know, therapy is gonna be necessary in many cases. But I will say,
one of the greatest things to hold that point is, the greatest thing that could happen for the victims is for the perpetrator to be brought to justice.
Okay.
Because in the psychology of their mind, then the cycle has ended.
That's where I was going with it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So you basically answered the question. You know, what is going to be the protocol for bringing the perpetrator to justice? Because, man, you know, everybody that I hear talking about, you know, this Bambaataa situation, all of these brothers, the boots on the ground, the warriors, the soldiers, the scholars, the hip hoppers, all of these guys, I'm hearing the same thing. You know, that the rumors were circulating. Right. So, man, what do you do? I mean,
well, one thing we do is give big props up to Brother Sharif, who was the bodyguard, who showed character and manhood. He was there. He was the right-hand man. He had to be. He was protecting that brother. So that meant, as a protector, as a bodyguard, you're willing to give your life for another man's life. But when he realized that this man didn't even respect the life of a child, he confronted him, first step. And after confronting him, he took steps that this man be dealt with. So I have to say respect to that brother.
Okay, well, that is the, I believe, once again, you answered the question. That is the protocol. That's what we need to do. We need to step in as men. I can't see a righteous man, an upstanding man, allowing something to play out within his sphere, within his sphere and within his circle, and not confront it. To all of the callers that are on the line, we definitely want to, first of all, if you are listening or if you're watching us on YouTube, the number to call in is 605-562-3140, and then it's 354-289#. I believe I got that right. If I didn't, then Brother Khalil is going to correct me. Once again, the number is 605-562-340, 340-389-254#. And if you are already on the line, and if please press *6 if you have a comment or question. That will put you in our caller queue, and once we see you in that queue, Dr. Tisa, then we will call on you, and you can make your comment or ask your question.
I want to add something else. I think the brother from Buffalo came in, and one thing he said I didn't get a chance to comment on.
Brother Kamal.
Brother Kamal was definitely...
Okay, we got Dr. Tisa.
There we go. We can hold that point there. Come on in here, baby girl. What is happening, sister?
Y'all like crazy.
Peace, Queen.
Hey, greetings. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Beautiful. You know what? I first wanted to greet you all, you know, with the greeting words of peace. Some say assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Alaikum salam.
Okay.
But I'm loving this conversation, and I'm beginning to think that my Wednesday afternoon, you know, as I sit at home with my children, homeschooling, I'm going to make sure I turn this conversation on. I love what I'm hearing so far and what's coming through the line. I heard my brother Kamal as well from
Buffalo.
In Buffalo.
Very good point.
I mean, I tremendously love him. Yes. So it's just a blessing to hear this
conversation. And I want to say, and brother, I'm seeing as well.
Right.
I want to say this, and this is something, and I felt like coming. Let me just come with this first, if y'all don't mind. Just
Go ahead.
I wanted to share what brother Terrence once stated, which is on Vlad TV. He gave an article regarding his thoughts, and this is something, an excerpt from his statement, because people kind of came back on him. He said the following, because he wanted to make it very clear his stand regarding the accusations made against our brother. And he said the following. He said, I am saddened at the whole controversy and how it has been handled. It is not that I don't care. It is more the fact that I don't gossip. I don't take sides in real disputes that don't concern me. I don't slander people's names, and I don't believe in abandoning your friends when they may be accused of crimes or make mistakes in their lives or in life. What is so confusing about that? My position is clear. At this moment, all I am seeing and hearing regarding Afrika Bambaataa is gossip and sensationalism. And like I have already said, I don't give an F about all that. I don't apply my mind to gossip and slander. Slandering the accused for the sake of slander is not justice, nor is it the seeking of justice. I would like to see justice and healing for both the accusers as well as for the accused. But continuous slander and disrespect are not healing anyone or even correcting the situation. Disrespect and slander is never an indicator that true justice is being sought. Disrespect and outright slander proves personal vendettas and revenge against the slandered, and I don't participate in such immaturity, nor am I naive to political setups and character assassinations. Instead of using one's mind, and please give me a moment, I'm finishing, I just want to close this last paragraph. Instead of using one's mind and time to gossip about Afrika Bambaataa, I think we should look closely at what it means to hate. There is no forgiveness, justice, or healing on any level when hate is involved. Hate is also a federal crime as well as a spiritual disease. There is no victory with hate, and hate is what is leading the charge against Afrika Bambaataa, not justice or even healing or reconciliation. Only love conquers all, and within the character of love is forgiveness and healing and loyalty. This is what is needed at this time. Hate reveals itself for what it really is, evil. I cannot see clearly, so it cannot see clearly, so it exposes itself at every turn, and those that truly love can see it. Hate is indeed self-destructive, and this is what real hip-hop must avoid at all costs. Only love sees clearly. Only love is consistent, because only love is unconditional. Love shows us the full life of the accused, not just the accusations brought against the accused. And I close, and this goes on and on. It's very powerful where he's coming, but this is what I wanted to say in regards to that. I'm happy to hear you all discussing this today, because I'm happy that somebody's bringing this up. I really would like to get into this discussion myself, but the question is where you begin. I met Afrika Bambaataa back in the 80s, and that was such a hype moment for me. Just a memory. And he was a decent brother. In fact, we were at an anti-apartheid rally. It was a big Nelson Mandela rally that we had in Toronto, and he was there and some others. And I can't tell you anything I felt about him that was on a low level. And I know that there are many people who have engaged in this activity and have done these things as well, who, upon meeting them, you may not feel anything that you're against. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend that he may be a saint on this and act like, oh, he didn't do it. I'm not taking that stand at all, because all the evidence appears to be pointing to say something else. It's almost like the same thing with Bill Cosby. It's the same sort of thing. But in a sense, I'm looking at it from an aspect of where do we really go from here at this point, because clearly if Afrika Bambaataa was doing this kind of thing from the beginning, or within a certain realm, before break in the Zulu Nation, then there's something that was done to him, and he is really only displaying behaviors that he's really in a balance. So he is now becoming his own violator. You see what I'm saying? He is the person violating. And this young man, I watched him on YouTube, and some of the things he was saying, he is clearly hurt and angry, about whatever happened, and that's understandable. I have also been a victim myself of people coming with the funny stuff, when I was a child. And so those of us who have been through the funny stuff and have been through people's weird, behaviors and the lies and everything else that kind of goes up along that and the secrets that you have to carry in your own life, it builds up a lot of inactivity. When I say that, you're not able to move forward on those issues. You tend to get stuck, and it really becomes like an explosion when it does finally come out. So there's clearly some work that has to be done to help him, these brothers who are accusing him, as well as Afrika Bambaataa, not throwing him away. And I'm also going to look at something that's called timing, and there's something to me that has timing in it. And even if he is, all of the homosexual that he is, or whatever, that's going on. And my question is, why now? Like, what is the purpose of bringing that out now? What is this exposing or trying to expose? Like, what's the objective? Is there, and this is just me now being a conspiracy theorist on it, could there be a need now to take all black men who have held long track records of respect in the community and have accusers come out of the woodwork who we were always aware of, mind you, in the past. I'm not talking from me now, because I wasn't aware of anything. I'm just talking from somebody.
Right.
We knew you was doing this thing back in the day. We remember when you used to like to take little boys to the side of the car. We remember when those little boys used to like to come, because everybody got, a stream of, running behind the cars, There's a lot of people who like to follow,
right.
Because you just don't turn your backside up. It doesn't happen like that. But it does happen like that in some instances too. But I'm just saying, we knew this was happening back in the day, Africa. And now you got a long track record, long history, and a long everything, and a lot of respect, and a lot of historical blah, 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 showing your track record, right? And this is a very high thing when you have a long track record, Bill Cosby. You see what I'm saying?
Prince, Michael Jackson.
And Michael Jackson, and Prince, okay? But maybe we're really trying to get at somebody else, but we first got to assassinate the little boys, or the little ones, on these long track record things, try to destroy their reputation, kind of wet the people's mouths and prepare them for the big crucifixion. You understand what I'm trying to say?
Wow.
So we crucify the brothers first. We test them with the Michael pill. We test them with the Prince pill, the Bill Cosby pill. In the past, we were just testing our weaponry.
Keep going. Yeah.
When we took what's his face out there. When we took Sam Cooke.
Yep.
See, we were testing our weaponry when we took we could go down the whole list right now. That was all just testing and sharpening and everything, but now we're very strategic on how we do what we do, because it's working. It's been working.
Wow.
So we put this out here. We take a long track record, male, black man. We test it with the people that we're really trying to catch, because we discovered that some people catch a certain community of people. So let's test it with this one that they all love and see how they're going to handle it. So when we test them with the big one, we'll know how to handle it or how to handle them. You understand me? See, because we're dealing with a master scientist. And I'm not trying to say Africa didn't do it. He probably very well did. I'm just saying that in the circle he did. Who's not
being
doing it?
used too.
You got to count on the hands. How many are not doing it? Don't worry, I got cousins all up inside of that. I know what goes on behind closed doors in that environment.
Yes, ma'am.
I've watched it myself because I was part of, in a sense, some of that scene. You know what I'm saying? So I saw stuff, but I chose not to be a part of certain things. I made the choice.
Right.
But if we get caught up, that's what kind of happens sometimes. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, ma'am.
But you should know when you get around those environments that those things do happen. So don't find yourself where you don't want to be. How's that?
That's right.
You don't want things to happen. I'm not blaming the victims. I'm just saying you could sometimes use wisdom in advance. And then you could say, I ain't going there. You know what I'm saying?
But you know what?
Where you want to walk and where you don't. But I say all that to say, my question is not so much Africa, it's why now?
Okay. That is a very good point. And you know what I think? I think that deserves a whole show, because we wouldn't do it justice, you know what I'm saying? Because someone said we would be using an excuse until you presented the evidence, then now it has to be considered. Whether he was or wasn't, he would be a good tool to be used because he sits at the top of an organization that is worldwide, world known, and in the name of something called hip hop, which is a multi-billion-dollar industry as well. So between Bill Cosby, between Ray Rice and the NFL, between how they picked a monster in the NBA, even Kobe was accused of rape. If you took the time and just laid it out, that's why black press is so important. Because no one is going to look at it strategically from our perspective until we examine it. We got to have our own empirical data. So we got to create companies that outlive us. And with that, we got other people coming. But that call and particularly you or the other brother, Unseen, these pieces as a program, we got to begin to take them, dissect them, and look into it even more. Thank you, Dr. Tisha, very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Pete.
Who we got here?
We got Brother Kamal.
Brother Kamal. Brother Kamal, you there?
No, this ain't Brother Kamal.
I'm sorry.
Brother James.
I'm sorry, brother. I'm sorry.
Is it Brother James?
I'm sorry. Go ahead, brother.
Is that Brother James?
Sir?
Oh, no.
I'm sorry, brother. Go ahead. We're talking to you, man. I apologize. I thought I recognized the number. It's my error.
Go ahead.
Who do we have the pleasure of speaking to?
My name is Harpo, and from Buffalo, New York, out here pumping.
Okay.
And, I'm listening to the sister sheet building. I listen to Kamal build. I listen to all y'all brothers build. Sisters, y'all all brought valuable points to the subject matter. I don't know too much about the Afrika Bambaataa situation. So I'll just, leave that to the individuals who are supposed to be responsible and spearheading that. And, whatever the results is, I show supporting, the findings of the community. But what I want to address is how we can become more active in the community in addressing this situation.
Okay.
We all know about the sex offender registry. And what I'm saying is that we have to get those photos of those individuals and start posting them in the community because, I know an individual, I'm about to do an individual who's at a store, man. You know what I'm saying? Where I'm from, these Arabs got all these stores, and I be seeing them guys be coming on to, our sisters and all that. You know what I'm saying? So, that's an issue too, I believe, that
we do a show on that.
Because, I don't know, but here in Buffalo, we do have advisory committee at the Common Council level. They just was created. It was just created recently during the initial hearing meeting. Individuals who were sexually abused came forward and gave testimony on how important it is for, law enforcement, public officials to be more proactive in addressing and notifying the community because it's a lot of individuals coming into our community. Like I noticed in the Caucasian community when they got a mass amount of sex offenders in their community, they be in protest, they be petitioning, saying they don't want sex offenders in their community, and they've been basically dumping them in our community. And I believe that's becoming a problem. And individuals who in your city, man, you just gonna have to get that booklet of all the photos of all those individuals and remain proactive in posting individuals' pictures in the communities that they reside in. We're currently, that's what the advisory committee is supposed to be setting up soon in their for me on how the police and the public officials in the community gonna work together in handing out photos when effective in a move in your community. How you supposed to be individuals who are on that street supposed to be notified of that.
Right,
You
they
know
are.
what I'm saying?
You're right.
In other cities like Minneapolis, in that city, those residents was getting notified of the sex offender by direct mail.
Right.
I'm saying, so
And brother,
system.
yeah, I wanted to add something to that when you talked about the pedophiles coming in the community. Here's the challenge with some of it, you know. I think that they should be identified, no doubt. If you are a registered pedophile, regardless of how it came about, we don't know the history of the case, so we have to obviously recognize it. 885,000 people who go to prison get out every year. And that's not saying that everybody that goes to prison either rapes or is going to be raped. But a high percentage of it does happen. So we have to consider that too. You can't take everybody's picture, but we need to be aware of that too. So what you're saying is right. Particularly some of the things you're talking about is how we identify, and I think what you're identifying is we need a structure by which we can communicate with each other, and perhaps there's some best practices. If it works great in Buffalo, perhaps we can apply something in Dallas or in the other cities. But thank you, brother, for the sake of time. We're going to have to keep on moving. But I appreciate the call.
You know, I want to go back to Dr. Tisa and some of the things when she read the statement.
Right.
I assume that was coming from KRS-One.
Yeah, I wrote some things down too.
You know, I'm going to say this. You know, his initial response was fuck it.
Right. I don't give a
fuck. Okay.
But now he said he was talking about the gossip.
Right. And it was spoken like a well-educated politician. And I'm going to say, to me, it sounded like this was a brother who was using deceptive intelligence to manipulate spiritual laws and principles.
Wow, that's heavy.
You know?
That's heavy.
Because you went back to the drawing board and you came back with this well-crafted statement, you know, but your initial response was you don't give a fuck.
Good
so
point. Very good point.
you know, I'm not going. You know, I'm not.
You don't have to say nothing else. That was
okay.
That was deeply presented.
And
keep that phrase. I'll come back and use that again.
And then the sister also said, "Well, why now?" Now there are two things I could say. Perhaps this could be divinely orchestrated, and it's now because this is something that our community, our family, we've been running away from this. We've been running from this for decades. We've been running from this. We know these children are in our families being molested, in our communities being molested. We see this, and we are turning a blind eye to this. You got mamas whose daughters are being molested by the boyfriend or the husband, and the mama
won't respond.
She's not responding. What is that doing to that daughter? That is a lifelong damaged relationship between that mother and that daughter.
And this goes back to almost a welfare mentality between taking the check from the government or having a man in the house, but now you're choosing to take the money from the man and indirectly accepting your daughter being pimped out at the same time, if that is what you're doing. I just want to point that out.
And look here, man, I wanna make a confession. And because I'm going to relate what I'm about to say to young men who have been molested. I've never been molested. I've never been touched inappropriately by a man. But when I was a teenager, when I started becoming a teenager, I would be walking down the street and I would have homosexual men pull over and they would solicit me. And this was frequent. I never told anyone that. My mama can call in right now and say, I never knew that. Nobody in my family ever knew that. So if I've never told, you know, that's not it. For some people, that's not big. But for me, from where I came from my hood, from my family, from my streets, that's big. You know, and to most of us listening is like, that ain't nothing.
Well, let me give
but
you
I'm
an
just saying
example.
that's something that I've held inside of me for 30 years until today. So imagine being one who was actually victimized, who was actually raped or molested. So I'm just saying that to say so I can see how some of these people can hold this in for so long and never bring it to the forefront. Because if I felt like in some kind of way, if I, say this, is
that you brought it on yourself in some kind of way.
Or it's humiliating to me because my self-image of being, a macho man or however I see myself, then, I don't want people to see me as someone who would attract homosexuals or this, that. See, you understand where I'm going with this? So, man, imagine somebody who has been violated. And that's that. I just wanted to put that out there for the family.
Well, the key to that is the understanding and getting it out. That's why you have a brother to brother. So the things that we did, and there used to be something as a part of a curriculum that Brother Massey put out. And it was a lot of the concepts of the Zulu Nation were imposed in it, ironically, since we're talking about this. And one of those concepts we call emptying the bowl. And emptying the bowl, we'd actually take a bowl of water, big bowl, and supposed to bless that water, call upon the ancestors and pour it in there. And we would sit around that table, and as we addressed an issue, every now and then someone would kind of get quiet and they would break down. And then that person would open himself up to empty the bowl. And he would tell things that, probably would never have told before. That's kind of what we're doing now. This brother to brother forum allows you to empty the bowl of what has happened to you. And one of the things that you said was, how do you handle that as a young boy? If you are a heterosexual young man and you 13 years old and grown men are stopping soliciting you, you got all kind of thoughts in your head as to why it's happening. Just like a victim, sometimes blames themselves. What did I do? So we have to be able to engage each other, even no matter what your age is, to come to some type of resolution and get some type of closure with that. And I don't know if I thought somebody other caller was in the queue, but
we got Dr. Tisa back.
Dr. Tisa is back on there, so I want to
call, and then we gonna close out.
But Doc, before you go ahead then, because I want to come back to what you said, and I want to take this show. Maybe we need to do another show and then talk about the feelings regarding it, because that was questions I would ask PG right now. I would have stopped right now, and we would have addressed it. Just because you sit with me and your co-host. Let me say this so we're clear on this before we go any further. Because we didn't create this forum where I got to rush and be uncomfortable. So let's deal with that. First of all, I set up on a forum on the Conscious Corner one day, and while I'm talking to Unseen, reading the paper, and come to the realization while we talking about domestic violence and rape, that Unseen, at 6 years old, watched his mama be raped. Do you understand what I'm saying to you all? So many times on this forum, things open up. So I might have been going on with the show, but I wasn't concerned with the show anymore. Who you think I was concerned with? Who you think I was concerned with? My brother who just said that. And that's the same scenario when these things happen out. When I do a counseling session, I'm going to have some level of closure. I'm not going to open up wounds and say, it's just business. We got to keep on pushing. We got to take care of each other. I want y'all to understand that. Prince died at 57. Or was it 57? How old was Michael Jackson? If we had a show and we just start talking about the numbers of how long we live, do you think that this stress does not affect us? Do you think not holding shit in for long periods of time does not affect you? Doc, I just want to leave it at that. Let's take it from there.
Yes, sir. You know what I want to say, and I really appreciate you coming out, brother, and sharing that.
Yeah.
And to me, I'll say something that has been really free for me as well is my ability to talk about the fact that I had been molested and I had also been raped. And that was something that I held up in me until I was 36 years old. And I mean, it was no joke to hold that. It affected my interactions with every single male outside of my family circle at all times. I didn't like to be with men by myself. You know what I'm saying? I always felt extremely uncomfortable, and I would make excuses, and my life was very hemmed up and very uncomfortable. And I drew the dynamic into my life through my first marriage, So I like to say it's a real thing. But I'm not justifying anything that I'm watching that's going on in this. I'm happy it's coming out. Indeed, it is true. It needs to be revealed. My main thing is, how are we going to utilize this as a remedy for what is the reality in our community, in our families? Because this is not just a little thing happening in New York. This is happening in our backyard.
That's true.
I'm mindful of all my children. because of what happened to me. And I could pick up pedophilia. Trust me, it's like a smell people carry. You know, because I know what I went through. And I can pick up rapists too. I see that look. You understand me? So you understand how to protect and guard. We just have to learn how to protect and guard our children. Thank God I have gotten the proper needs I've addressed to help me through this. If I didn't, God only knows where I'd be. So I'm very thankful for auditing and Dianetics and being able to go through that experience, because I'm a freed woman, because I have gotten that off of me. But this victim needs help. And all this other stuff is not going to help him. He needs help. And Bambaataa needs help too, because he's also a victim. People don't just grow up to be gay. You know what I'm saying? This stuff is based on a core element of something done against him. So that's what I'm looking at. But thanks a lot for bearing your soul.
Sister, first of all, before you even get off the phone, off the line, thank you for bearing yours. Because every time, you know, as a practitioner, I already know, every time you speak of it, you revisit it. And the question is, you mature as you go along and learn coping skills, so as you revisit it, you don't revisit the same trauma again. And we got to teach other people how to be able to engage a crisis and not live through that crisis in their marriages and their relationships with their children. Some women who have children are non-effective to the boy child. You understand what I'm saying? That means that he's not close to his mama because his mama still holds such a strong resistance for the man that she sees it in her child. See, these are things that we don't address.
That's real.
So, we're opening up as a practice. Go ahead, sister.
I want to say to you, Brother Amon, I don't want to cut you with that, but that is a real thing. And I'm telling you, for my own children, I have 7 children, 4 of which are boys. And the first 6 belong to my first husband. You know what I'm saying? So when I look at my children, I see him in them. I had to learn to love the person that was not the abuser. You understand?
Yes, I do.
Was not, but that was for years the stand I took. Now I'm learning how to love the entire person and see that he himself was a victim of something. You understand me?
I do.
So now I have the element to be able to forgive him. I'm not justifying the foolishness he does. He's still doing foolishness.
Yes.
But I am working on my forgiveness of this person, because he does deserve to be forgiven by me, because he gave me the best gift on this planet. I got the baddest children on this planet from him. You understand me?
Yes.
And I'm honored by the man he is. I see all the beauty and there's so many amazing things this brother has. He is a star. He just doesn't even know it. But I gotta let the children know. I can't help him, but I can certainly help our children to understand that starship that they have in them and cultivate that despite everything that we went through. And I think that's what the honorable thing is for me, to be able to not hate him, but to move to this point of forgiveness and really be able to recognize the God in him. That's a power move for me.
Well, sister, thank you again, because I will end your dialogue with this point is, when you forgive, that means that you no longer hold the trauma. You release yourself for being held captive as a victim. Because as long as you are angry and you still want to punish and you have no way to engage that person, you're still imposing trauma on yourself. But to forgive that person, it says it was an experience, I have to let it go and I have to live on. You might not forget it, but you forgive it. And you put it in a place to where it's no longer damaging to you. And that's what we want to see come out of this. And I agree with you. This opens up dialogue in all of our community. I mean, everybody, so many people in your community, a child has been molested by an uncle, by an aunt. Unfortunately, many times, sometimes by paternal fathers and mothers. I mean, Richard Pryor, come on, y'all. He was born in a brothel. Do we need to go deep? Do we need to go back? Do we need to go to what he laughing and we jokingly listened to what he was saying, but he was talking about pedophilia then. But it was in a joke form. And it became his therapy. What PG just said, what I experienced, what I just heard you say, what I seen said about his mother being raped and him being there and seeing that trauma. And we then until we get on the show that he breaks down and it actually happens. Come on, you all. These forums are not just forums for dialogue. These are forums for healing. That's why you see this mask. Everything that we doing is for a purpose. So look, we got to heal. And a part of the process, I think that next show would be kind of trying to address that healing, at least and coming back to some components. But thank you so much. I know that wasn't easy to revisit, so we appreciate you so much, Dr. Tish. Thank you, Doctor.
I want to remind everyone to support reclaimingthevillage.org, reclaimingthevillage.org. please go there, make a donation, see what we're doing in the community, what we're doing in the global community. One world family, reclaiming the village. That is really what it is. Also, 10,000 fearless. As Minister Farrakhan, happy birthday to my father, grandfather, brother, Minister Farrakhan.
What day is his birthday?
83rd birthday. Happy birthday, Minister.
Happy birthday to the minister.
Man,
Happy birthday.
I love you dearly, brother. Yes, 10,000 fearless, as I said. And that is a step in the right direction of being able to protect our communities and being able to patrol our communities and prevent some of these things that are happening while no one else is watching. We are the watchers. Yep. We are the cavalry. So I just wanted to say that.
Well, I wanted to say one other thing. When PG got started and said he had a confession, I go into practitioner mode right away. I'm no longer host. I'm a practitioner, because the core to a practitioner's love to lead means to serve. And then some of us, I'm guilty for over-serving sometimes, and it puts yourself at a deficit. And I'm doing a better job of becoming a better man myself. And a lot of times that appears to be selfish, just like eating and taking a better care of Amon. I want to get in better physical condition. And I've been motivated by that by the brothers around me, turning my game up and working harder, making sure that GriotNation becomes a formidable institution that outlives all of us. And someday you tell our story, tell the storyteller's story. That's what the goal is. So when you go to reclaimingthevillage.org, you're affording our ability to leave a legacy and leave a platform for all of us to speak. I want you to check out our Helpful Hints for Parents, because we're trying to give direction and guidance to parents sometimes. And now you understand why we would have a Helpful Hints for Parents. Matter of fact, now this has inspired me to do a whole series on pedophilia, how to recognize the signs, how to protect your child from that. Because a pedophile has done it enough that he knows how to point out a child that may be open to his advances. He can see things that we can't see. And that's why I tell you older or younger girls, be careful when you get with a man that's that much older than you, because the hustle in the game can really be played on you. And here's the other thing. One of the things he said in reference to what he addressed, I addressed that when I was at New Beginners Preparatory, and we got the police involved, and we started doing some patrols ourselves. We had 3 of our boys picked up. And they were all, it ended up being 7 vehicles through the DFW Metroplex, and all of them drove a certain model of BMW, and it was great. And they were picking up young boys to give them a ride. They saw them walking, and as soon as they got in the car, and they said, no young man, they be walking around, you working, what's going on? You got money in your pocket, and laugh and joke with them, and first thing they do, they put $100 in front of them. And that's why materialism is pushed in front of the kids. And guess what? Some of those boys who are not clear on their sexuality may do certain things. And I think, some of these young folks may have responded in a different manner from which they told me. So with that being the case, if we start addressing as cruisers, and then after we start to investigate, we find out it's happening in all kind of communities. And whether you like it or not, that's all the hell R. Kelly was doing, was cruising.
Right.
But the only thing different for him, he was in a Maserati and he was using his celebrity status to rape children. So before I say, well, allegedly, well, that's not alleged, because he paid. He paid out of court. So some people say, well, he was just trying to do that. Okay, if he was, great. He acknowledged that he had a problem, but has it been solved? We have a lot of issues in our community. So it's not just the issue of Bambaataa, and he don't get a pass because of who he is. We just recognizing that this wound being opened up gives us a chance to look in your own house. Check your own house. And with that, we're going to get ready to close. ReclaimingTheVillage.org. May the 14th, let's talk a little about some of the stuff we got going on. We need to really make sure we start to push our platform, our brand. We got a lot of things coming up. We need you to be present. This forum ain't just for he and I sit down and talk unseen when we get together in our forum, or him and Corey get together. This is about building for real.
Really?
So we got some things happening. We need you all to listen, to watch, come get involved with us. So let's start talking about some of the things we got coming up.
May 14th, Candidates Forum. At the Park South YMCA in Dallas, Texas. It'll be hosted by Sidney Walker.
And when we say that, let's add to this. Everybody that was a part of the protest, the Bear protest, the South Dallas protest, as we called it, we need you to come out. This is the boots on the ground next step. You see what I'm saying? Having the right politicians in place, holding people accountable. So it may be in the future situations like that don't even occur. And also taking under consideration, we know they're trying to take that area. Don't forget that.
Oh, yeah.
We have forgot that. So I really want to tie that in. So all you all who listen and watch us in that capacity, you all are part of our boots on the ground soldiers. We need you there if you can get there.
And gentrification in full effect. So yes, definitely please come out and support. It starts at 10 o'clock a.m. And, local politics.
Right.
we have been duped into focusing on the national elections,
Yeah,
and ignoring
our own backyard.
What's in our own backyard. And it's kind of like, we're shooting for the great spectacle and the big names and the all of the
Right.
the trimmings that go with the national election. But what's happening in our and I'm guilty of it myself. So finally recognizing what's going on and what's the real. I encourage all of us, hey, let's start focusing on what's going on in our communities. Also, we have the Black Power Block Party that is sponsored by the Black Women's Defense League. Black Women's Defense League. That's going to be at in Hamilton Park in Dallas, Texas. I believe it kicks off at 1 o'clock. So there's going to be food. There's going to be speakers, elders
we'll be there.
Speak.
GriotNation
will be in the house.
Yeah.
Brother Amon is going to be able to address the community. We're going to have entertainers. I believe one of the gentlemen from Dead Prez, I think it's M1, he'll be there. So join us there.
Yeah.
We don't have and then we'll tell you about
the next
event.
Yeah. Well, but we gotta do for our girl because she's a part of our family, y'all. Though y'all, we call her Fly Nana. We're talking about Miss Ragsdale. And definitely a curious Kai. I had forgot about Shorty's World. We just been trying to keep the whole world together right now. And but they have a literary fest that's coming up on the 21st, and that is about our children. We started saying that the main issue we talking about pedophilia at its origin. We're talking about protecting our babies. What better way to protect our children than to inform them, to have resources available for them, and to be in an environment where we're there to encourage them, to mentor them, and continue to build. And I want to thank her because you all get a chance to see her Black Family magazine. She was
and
taught.
Her books.
And her
I
books.
bought a few of her
DeMarcus
books.
Jones.
And sister got books for children.
Right.
They're African centered, talking about all of our greats from Hannibal to Harriet Tubman to Sojourner Truth and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But these are the types of materials that we want to be setting in front of our children to help to enhance and develop that knowledge of self.
And hey, and don't forget, we'll be there, and we're going to have our rapidemics there. As part of Shorty's World, we'll begin to really promote and push our rapidemics, our products and services. And as a national lecturer, I have a great deal of information I want to depart upon people. And you'll start to see us more. Not only having our as I say, this banner, this is our flag. But when I grab that microphone, that's our weapon. You understand what I'm saying? And that music that we put out there, those are our bullets. When we hit the ground, that's your infantry. So, we got an air attack, we got a ground attack, and we have an air attack. So that means that we are prone and ready to rock and roll. And I can't say, thank y'all enough, Ms. Ragsdale. We got that out there. We're going to continue to push it. Perhaps next week we'll get you on, let you talk about it a little more, and get as many people present as we can. But thank all y'all, man, for tuning in from brother to brother. ReclaimingTheVillage.org. I can't say that enough. I would love for Brother Khalil also, because we need y'all on Facebook. We need you on Twitter, Instagram. We got Periscope. So I want to learn these things and stop ignoring them. But in order to do this, you all, if we're going to be a one world family, we got to act like it. We can't move forward without some level of donation and support. We're looking forward to going to Buffalo on June the 19th. What we'd like to do is be able to go by the support of the people who support us. I'm watching politicians who I know have no love for us. I'm talking about absolutely none. They have a campaign to get a job, and we're giving them $47 million, $57 million. Oh, we have donors that are giving $5 to $10 and $5 to $25, and we're floating their boat at that level. Well, our boat isn't that big, but we still gonna set sail. But the only way we can do it, and God is our witness, is with you. The same way we fund our churches is the same way we got to fund our organizations. In the past, we've kind of come forward there, and then we started depending upon grants. The reason they set that up so you wouldn't have internal power. Because in grants, they control what you do. You have to report what you do. You have to report what you've done. But independently, you do what you think you need to do. And that's what we want. We want real freedom. Freedom ain't never been free. That's just the truth. So I love y'all. I appreciate us. I love our family and I love our people. And when you hear us talking about our people are part of the big picture that we talk about America. But you can't take care of somebody else's house till you take care of your own. So with that, unless you got something else, I don't want to miss nothing.
No,
well, that is it, you all. It must be born in the mind that the tragedy in life does not lie in reaching your goal. The tragedy lies in having no goal to reach. It isn't calamity to die with dreams unfulfilled, but it is a calamity not to dream. It isn't a disaster to be unable to capture your ideal, but it is a disaster to have no ideal to capture. It is not a disgrace not to reach the stars, but it is a disgrace to have no stars to reach for. Not failure, but low aim is a sin. Holla Black, we'll see you next week. Peace out. Hotel.
Hotel.